first kind of were influenced by Foster's architecture, as many of us were from quite an early stage in my career. But I began to work more and more with Foster's over the years, probably from mid-90s more or less. And then at some point when I started my own practice, we had meetings. I came and spoke to Norman personally and discussed the possibility of bringing my practice to join as Foster's. And that conversation went on. It took about 3 years before it happened, and then finally in February 2011 we joined. That's me and my practice, all the guys working in my firm, and we were happy to join. It was a fantastic experience from then on. At the time they were working, there was a team working quite heavily on the Hong Kong-Shanghai Bank in Hong Kong, and also Stansted Airport. What I saw in those projects were things that I thought were very brave environmentally, and so I saw those as great opportunities and a kind of a leading edge in that area of architecture, or architectural thinking, that you wouldn't really see at that time, you wouldn't see elsewhere in the world so much. I think the openness and braveness to incorporate things that perhaps the practice is still learning about and excited to learn about comes with innovation, but I think it's the breadth of thinking, and that's true with projects with Norman in particular. I always notice working directly with Norman is his intensity of concentration and willingness to absorb ideas and thoughts from whomever they might come. And that's an inspiration to design. It almost helps you think more, because you realise the gravity of how he might be taking what you're thinking, and you also quite quickly know when you've given him enough information. And that communication, which is quite subtle, it's pretty interesting, and it's a great way to work. For me, I think what Norman's done to skyscrapers and if you like, the skyline of cities, is that he's made them beautiful. And I think there are exceptions, of course. There's some great buildings we've all learned from historically, perhaps even before Norman was practicing. But I think there are too many buildings that are great because they're tall, but not great because they're great pieces of architecture, and he's made them into great pieces of architecture with obviously the whole practice. But I mean, some of those early influences, I mean, Hong Kong Shanghai Bank stands out there, and so many others, Hearst Tower. I mean, these are brave, different ways of looking at high-rise and super high-rise buildings, some of which, as you know, haven't been built, but they've been thought out. And yeah, I think that's the big difference. For me, it's really exciting when there's an extreme in the climate. So it's a very dry climate, but it's as cold as -17 in the winter, and it goes up to about +35 to 40 in the summer. It's otherwise, virtually it's arid, semi-arid location. The building itself then has an amazing response to that, and a great part of of my personal influence on it created the earth berms that lead into it, that form the pre-cooling to the function of the building. So over and above all of that, I would say is what it symbolises, that it was there for not just for people with wealth, but it's been put there for people to actually go up to a certain altitude and look back and see how precious the earth is. And I think that for me is a fantastic symbol of what mankind has to start realising. I think we're at a step change in society's response to sustainability, as we all know. Our infrastructure is going to change dramatically. It has to. We can't carry on aiming towards the aspirational targets for sustainability without it changing. I think our buildings are going to become so much more accountable as we go forward. The way we take care of our buildings once they're done, because they hold, if you like, a precious amount of resource. They consume an amount of resource, and so they're a kind of, if you like, a kind of a static but living thing that we should be taking care of. And I think our responsibility going forward is what happens in the 60-year or so life of these buildings. So there'll be a change in attitude, I think, possibly more than the architecture. The future of architecture will look different. I think we should start saying goodbye to car ownership. Sitting there driving a car or moving around yourself, even if it's electric and running off green power, it's kind of awkward. It's no longer, it doesn't suit modern society. I think mobility needs to be efficient, clean, And I think it also needs to help us all live together in dense urban environments, which at the moment you could say the one thing that doesn't work well, and we've seen it so much through all the different things that happened over diesel, for example, that really the current mobility situation in almost every city in the world is just wrong, just doesn't work. So it has to change. So it will change.